Thank you so much, Forum, for that lovely introduction. A little more about me. I have actually been involved with YJA for the past 16 years, and I have aged out, but yeah, just wanted to share that little tidbit.
And hi, everyone. My name is Aanya Gandhi. Like Forum said, I am from the New York City area, but currently quarantining here with my family in Washington, D.C. And just this past weekend, I'm closing out on 10 incredible years with YJA. And I'm so grateful and thankful to the YJA Executive Board and the Convention Committee for bringing me out today. There's no better way for me to celebrate my years than being with you all today. So some of you may have joined this session maybe knowing or have heard the bhavanas, and maybe some of you have no idea or clue what the bhavanas are, and some of you may have joined because I forcefully asked you to. Thank you, Mom. But to preface this presentation, we first wanted to say that this is Jainism through mine and Sonali's lens and the experience that we have. And the purpose of this session is, whether you know the bhavanas or not, it's the revision on your outlook on 2020 and how can we utilize this year to improve ourselves. The revisioning really starts with us looking closely at the 4 auxiliary bhavanas, but let's take a step back first and first understand what are bhavanas and what are the 12 bhavanas that go before it.
So, bhavana in Jainism is basically a reflection, but it can also be a feeling. So moving forward, the 12 bhavanas, these are reflections which basically remind us that everything is impermanent. The soul is alone and separate, and how to end the cycle of birth and death through the theory of karma. And that's what we should have appreciation for. So to make room for pure thoughts and to really drive the evil ones out, Jainism recommends reflecting on these 12 bhavanas. And when we do so, we'll actually become closer or help ourselves achieve moksha, through which is basically liberating our soul.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of died laughing at this one.
No pun intended there. But like Sonali said, so we have the 12 bhavanas, and the 12 bhavanas are reflection points that we should be actively working on to attain enlightenment, right? But it's not always realistic to be reflecting on those 12 thoughts every single day. So that's where the 4 auxiliary bhavanas step in. These are bhavanas that help us create a baseline to incorporate in our daily lives and help us become more virtuous human beings. So there's Maitri bhavana, which means friendship, Pramod bhavana, which means appreciation, Karuna bhavana, which means compassion, and Madhyastha bhavana, which means neutrality. And looking at these words, I mean, it's nothing new, right? We all have heard about friendship and appreciation, compassion, and neutrality, but these bhavanas aren't just asking us to know them, but to feel them. And that's the difference between the 12 bhavanas versus the 4 auxiliary bhavanas. The 12 bhavanas ask us to think and reflect, but these 4 bhavanas are asking us to go beyond the words and take action. So let's actually take a closer look at each of these bhavanas and see how we can expand our understanding of them. And let's start with Maitri bhavana. So I'm first curious to hear from you all. What does friendship mean to you? And we actually have a Slido feature. So if you guys go to, on your phones or on your laptop, join at slido.com, and it'll lead you to a screen where you can type in this code in 1 or 2 words. Tell us what friendship means to you. True, someone to lean on. Respect, support system, happiness, empathy, compassion, true. Mutual respect, support. Yep. Selflessness. Anya. joy, understanding, vulnerability, companionship, unconditional support. That's a great one. Trust, yeah. These are all so great, so great. So just like you guys are saying, this is probably one of the more easier bhavanas to understand because we all have friends. We all have friends that support us, are unconditional with us, that give us trust and loyalty. But what this bhavana is asking us to do is think beyond just our core friend groups. How can we be a better friend to other human beings we may not know, to animals, to the earth, etc.? So this is just one of the examples that I have that I believe relates back to friendship, and it's the Black Lives Matter movement. We've seen all across the United States and all across the world that people are coming together to support in solidarity with the Black community. They're marching and supporting and showing love for them. And they're people that they don't even know personally, but they're showing that I'm going to expand my definition of friendship and go beyond what I believe and see that, you know, if my friend was in this much trouble, and if they were feeling this way, I would want to make sure to be there to support them. And that's exactly what this Black Lives Matter movement is doing. It's calling from people from all over the world to come together and support this community. Extend that same care and love that you would to a friend and the rest of the world. Take action beyond just the good thoughts. We should be there for fellow human beings and provide them as much support and resources as possible. So there are little things that you can do to help show your friendship to the Black community and during this Black Lives Matter. You can show up on social media. You can help create an awareness and repost things that you agree upon and have a conversation with your friends and family on there. Educate yourself. My family's been spending time watching some documentaries. I've been reading articles in my free time. I even helped start a diversity and inclusion task force within my marketing department at my company. Do what you can to help support and educate yourself and others. Reach out to your Black friends, your coworkers, your schoolmates. They need your support. And you just, asking them a simple question of like, hey, are you doing okay? Or letting them know that like, I support you and I stand with you. That's showing your true friendship. And that's what this bhavana is asking us to do. And lastly, provide perspective and conversation with others. We're not always going to be in the same group of people that necessarily agree with us. We're going to be with people that may not view maybe the Black Lives Matter movement in the same way that you do. But be that person when nobody's watching to provide perspective and provide education and understanding in conversation with others. The bhavana is all about working internally. There's not somebody watching at all times what you're doing. It's really about what you feel inside and the goodwill that you want to spread to other people.
That was really great, Aanya. So just to touch on what Aanya said, and share a personal story, I have an African-American colleague who shared with me a few days ago that during the Black Lives Matter movement, she had felt really alone at work. And I guess when it was all going on, she would walk into work and no one really said anything. No one brought it up. And I think that just made her feel less connected. And, from her perspective, that totally makes sense. So, but then I mentioned, it's a sensitive topic. I'm sure people just felt uncomfortable bringing it up. They didn't want to make you uncomfortable. She said, yeah, I'm sure that's right, but it would have been nice. And so I think sometimes we just don't want to talk about the difficult things. And maybe it's coming from a good place, but it can't really hurt to just say like, extend your friendship and say, hey, it sucks what's going on right now. It's not ideal. And I just want you to know if there's anything that I can do, or if you ever have need someone to talk to, I'm here. And even coming from a kind and compassionate place is always okay. So talking about the sensitive issues is important.
Totally agree.
Um, so another way that it can also extend our friendship is through climate change. Um, I know we talk about it a lot, but maybe it's less so during COVID. But we are all connected. The earth, the trees, the plants, the animals, the insects, the microbes, all of us are connected and dependent on one another. Ahimsa, or nonviolence, is the main tenet of Jainism. So reverence for all living beings. So as Jains, or as people, it's our moral duty to protect the earth and its inhabitants. So through this unspoken friendship, we need to be mindful of that. And sometimes we don't pay attention to our actions because they have a slow but cumulative effect on the earth. So let me try to think of another analogy. Our health. So with our health, you know, we don't really always want to go to the gym. We don't always want to eat healthy, but we'll do it because, hey, we don't want to be sick when we're older. But guys, the earth is getting sicker and sicker, and it's because of us. So we need to be mindful of treating the earth like our friend. So your actions do have an impact on the world, even if they're slow and steady. And we are extending our friendship to future generations by worrying about climate change. So what are some of the ways that we can extend our friendship to the earth? If you want to type in the chat box, Anya could maybe read them. If you guys want to amend. So I'll repeat the question. What are some ways that we can extend our friendship to the earth? Recycle.
Yep. Plant trees, reducing consumption.
Cold showers. Using less plastic.
Make your needs minimum.
Use less electricity. Going vegan is huge.
Buying sustainability. Great. Yeah, these are great, great ways. Donating to environmental charities. Yep, that's a good one. Totally.
Well, these are great, guys. Thank you so much. Growing your own food.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your responses. These are all so great. So just to kind of add what you guys are saying, Jane has actually put out some resources on how we can collectively tackle climate change as a community. Hopefully we can send out like the link to the resources that they've shared. And they've also provided a declaration that we can sign to publicly commit to helping with climate change, which is so great, and highly encourage and recommend all of us for come band together and show our support and friendship to the earth by fighting climate change. So as you can see here, there's a bunch of different photos here that show pre-COVID and during COVID. And I believe this all ties back to friendship, right? We're caring for the earth and the earth is healing because of it. On the left side here, you'll see on the top left, there's a picture of Milan back in, I believe, 2008. And Milan has actually been named Europe's most polluted city. And you can see that after COVID on the bottom left, how much it's cleared up. Just look at the stark difference between the two, how much you're able to visibly see the city just by us using less pollution and going out and going in cars and doing things that help harm our earth. And the same thing on the right side, on the top with the Gateway of India and Delhi. Look at the huge difference between the two. Reduced air pollution has brought us this clear, visible Gateway of India to us. And then there was also an article that was going around. I saw that for the first time in 30 years, the villagers next to the Himalaya mountains were able to actually see the Himalaya mountains. It wasn't just covered up in fog or smoke, which is crazy. So look at what happens when we treat the earth like we treat our friends, when we want to extend the growth and empathy to them.
So I just wanted to throw this out there, and Aanya, I'm sure you'll agree with me, but I would say that the mid 90s to early 2000s is when I truly feel we saw the prime of deep friendship. I mean, look at Joey Tribbiani.
Yeah, leave us a comment if you also love Friends just as much as Sonali and I. I think Joey Tribbiani is the epitome of a friend lover to animals. Great. So the next bhavna is talking about Pramod bhavna, which is appreciation. So does anyone want to talk a little bit more about what is something you appreciate today? If you drop an asterisk in the comments, and if you would like to, if 2 or 3 of you would like to speak a little bit about what you're appreciative today, if somebody on the board wants to unmute them to let them speak.
One thing that I appreciate today is just being able to like live in a nice shelter and being safe from COVID, because I know like multiple places in India and like any like poor country, there's like like billions of people that live on the streets are affected by COVID on a daily basis. That's like one thing I really appreciate.
Totally.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, Jai Janendra, to everybody, great virtual YJA day. What I'm very appreciative about is basically, the world we live in right now, we see like the worst coming out in humanity and everybody's just being effective. I'm just very appreciative that I don't have to worry about those things. I have a house to live in. I have food on the table. I have family around me. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to get my next paycheck or what I'm going to be doing. It's like, the bhav and the Maitri that you just said, like the friendship that we have all around us and the love. So I'm just appreciative about that. Even in these rough and very difficult times, I'm surrounded by people, family, friends, and everything I need this year. So I don't see that. I see that it gets a greater understanding within you to just be more appreciative about the day-to-day activities and things that you have, because I think that's a very, very underappreciated feature that people don't appreciate what they have. They complain and they want more. But now when you don't have any, when you have everything and you see people that don't, it makes you appreciate it more. Thank you.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's something that, we've also spent a lot of time wrapping our heads around, during when COVID first started versus now, the appreciation levels have just gone through the roof, right? Does one more person want to speak on what they appreciate today?
Hello, Jai Janendra, everyone. I'm Vivek from Dallas, Texas. I'm appreciative of being employed during these times. I think I'm one of the lucky people who work in that part of the tech industry, which is not only survived, but somehow managing and maintaining, a decently healthy business today. And I know a lot of people, including a lot of my friends, who were laid off, unemployed for a while. Some of them moved back to India, and then many people, like even in my own family, have had no business for the last 4, 5, 6 months, and probably will not for the next 3 or 4 months. So I'm appreciative of the fact that it's just something, at work people complain about a lot of things. I've had a whole new perspective on that, and just appreciative of being employed and time like this, and not having to go through a lot of other things that a lot of other people are going through. I've also gained a new level of empathy for them. So thank you.
Yeah, completely agree. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you
And that's
so much.
exactly what the Pramod Bhavna is doing. Acknowledge what we have right now in the present. Let's reflect each day with happiness and love for each other, and truly think about how lucky we are and how grateful we should have to this life, and not even just our own lives, but the people around us that have really impacted us.
So Anya and I found these great memes that really made us laugh. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of us can look back at the fact that there was a point in time when we didn't want to go to school, when we didn't want to go to work. And now we're like, God, I miss those days. I miss it when I could just go to school, go to work, things were normal. And, you know, keeping these things in mind, like, we sort of had to lose something in order to gain appreciation for it, right? But we don't want to have to lose something to gain appreciation. So why don't we take those thoughts even a step further? We right now are spending a lot of time appreciating what we had before, but how can we appreciate the now? So there are so many opportunities that COVID-19 has handed us that we can appreciate, like the things we talked about earlier. You know, we're spending more time with our families at home, some of us. I'm definitely not, but that's okay. Having more time to work on a hobby that you love, really connecting with others virtually. So, I mean, I don't think I've ever been as emotionally close to my friends and my family as I am now. We could not have had like a virtual YJA day experience where people from all over the world could just like tune in. My parents are here, like this has never happened. And so this is another way to look at this situation. So it shouldn't just be about the past. It should be about the present. So we should definitely keep those things in mind.
Completely agree. So let's think about some actionable things that we can do, right? Something like keeping a daily gratitude journal. And keeping something like this is going to help us create a habit in feeling and expressing gratitude throughout the day. And it's powerful because you're going to start noticing your mind shift making a switch. And when you're able to bounce back from negative situations or emotions much faster. But I know firsthand that it's much easier said than done. I would pick up a gratitude journal every once in a while, do it for a couple of days, and then, you know, just forget about it until I'm feeling so low. But many of us have heard that the golden rule of habit change, it takes 21 days to build a habit. Having a gratitude journal is also going to help extend to simple things we normally aren't aware of. So when you wake up in the morning and you have, let's say, oatmeal for breakfast, think about how lucky you are and grateful you are to have food in front of you that you're able to eat to energize you for the rest of the day. Some of us are able to afford healthcare. That's not a right that everybody in the world has. How grateful we are, how grateful we should be to have that. And being more appreciative, we're going to find in these little things, we're going to be happy overall. There's a couple of different ways to approach having a gratitude journal. My method is different than Sonali's method, but I'll share you mine. Two of my wonderful sisters for my birthday of a couple weeks ago actually presented me with this book, Becoming, a guided journal for discovering your voice. It's by Michelle Obama. And love Michelle Obama, and she's a great inspiration for me to actually discover my voice. And while this book is focused on helping me find my identity and who I am as a person, I realized that a lot of it, the underlying factor of this book is really to talk about gratitude. And gratitude in my experience, gratitude for the people around me, gratitude in just life. I've listed out two examples here actually that were prompts, part of the book. So one is list 3 people who contribute to your circle of strength. And next to each person's name, describe why each person is so dependable. Another example is pick a favorite photo and write a story describing what you see. So one, highly recommend if you're somebody like me that needs a little bit more guidance in how to express your gratitude, this book is really great. But there's so many resources online that you can easily find. If you just Google gratitude journal prompts, you're going to find hundreds and thousands of prompts that you can choose on a day-to-day basis or a couple times a week, whatever time you can spend 5 to 10 minutes in your week or in your day to express your gratitude. Sonali, do you want to share yours?
Yes. So I really love Anya's method, but we all have methods that work for us. So my method's a little different. I like to kind of sit there and close my eyes and visualize, so I'll start with 3 things that I'm grateful for in the past 24 hours, and then a few things I might be grateful for in my career, and a few things I'm grateful for in my personal life. And then I'll just kind of like really feel those and think about them, and then I'll write them down. But the thing is, it's just about actually doing it. It doesn't take a lot of time, and building this habit may take a little time, and it also may seem a little tedious in the beginning. But the thing is, for you to actually have an impact from this gratitude journaling, you need to be consistent with it for your changes to happen internally. So it'll take time. But once you're there and you're ready, how can you make this gratitude journaling a little more fruitful? So let's take it a step further. So let's not just write these things down. Let's feel them in our body. So when you feel the gratitude while writing them down, it's a little different from just writing them down. I mean, you might as well just make a grocery list because it's super detached. You're just writing things down. So feeling it allows you to manifest this positive energy within. And like attracts like. So when you're vibrating at a higher frequency, you're going to attract things of a higher frequency, and you're going to attract more good things into your life, and you're going to feel happier. So let's also be more specific in our gratitudes, because this allows us to start experiencing this feeling within and noticing more things that we're appreciative of each day. So for example, it's so easy for us to just write, I'm so grateful for my friends and family. Done. But how about this? I'm so grateful that I have such supportive family and friends who reached out to me last night and this morning to wish me luck for my session. People I hadn't even heard from in so long, and they just took the time to even make it out today. Do you see how I actually felt that inside of me versus before it was a little more detached? Or how about another example? I'm so grateful for the kind people I work with at the hospital. Okay, yeah, I work with kind people, but how about I'm so grateful for the kind nurse at work yesterday who went above and beyond to show me how to get to the location in the hospital that I was looking to find. So when you're more specific with your gratitudes, you will feel them more. And then lastly, something else to take note of is a lot of pain and suffering comes from expectation. So when you start feeling grateful internally for what you have, your expectation of how things should be diminishes. So Aanya and I created an equation. We're looking to publish it soon. And it's gratitude minus expectation equals happiness. So the more gratitude you have and the less expectation you have, the happier you will be.
Awesome. The next bhavana is talking about Karuna bhavana, which is compassion. So drop it again in the chat. Let us know, what are some ways, big or small, that you've recently shown compassion? Being kind to myself. Yep, doing acts of kindness for others. You've donated, that's great. Made my sister breakfast this morning. My little sister does the same for me too. Cooking for family, helping our nanny nana clean their house. Had an open conversation and listened to my friend what to say and understand their viewpoint. That's great. Taking care of my ba, empathy at work, grocery errands for my family. Yes, Dad. Yeah, it's wrong for me to judge from my perspective alone. This is so great. Yep. Totally. So that's what compassion is. This is what the bhavna is asking. The compassion and the deep awareness and sympathy towards all living beings' struggles and wanting to selflessly help them. There should be no attachment or expectation when it comes to this bhavna.
So something that I'm really excited to share with all of you today is this Hawaiian practice that I learned. It's called Ho'oponopono. And the word basically can be translated to correcting a mistake or to make it right. So I wanted to acknowledge my good friend Parth Savla for introducing me to this practice. And due to time constraints, I'll be touching on this practice a little bit, but it'll at least give you an idea of what it's about. So everything we experience as reality is projected from our own mind and our inner self, whether it's through certain programming, belief systems, experiences, what we're taught. You're responsible for everything in your mind. If you're being triggered, that's on you, even if it seems to be the fault of others. So let's use the 4 phrases on the right-hand side of this slide as an example of applying this practice. So the 4 phrases are, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. So just to give an example here, I was really upset with Aanya the other day. You know, I was trying to get a hold of her and she wasn't answering her phone, but somehow Aanya happened to be active on Facebook. How dare she? So I noticed my feelings. You know, I was pretty frustrated. I was upset. I was sad because we needed to have this presentation done. Anyway, come to find out, Aanya had actually been tied up with work stuff. Her phone had broken that morning. And then the only reason she'd been on Facebook was because she needed to reach out to her family to let them know about her phone situation. So what I needed to do personally was take a step back and look at the situation and my negativity. So when you're applying this practice, you're not saying any of this to a particular someone. You're saying this to yourself, and you can be speaking to someone, but you're not actually directly speaking to them. And you're feeling what you're saying. So I said, Aanya, I'm so sorry for feeling upset with you and sending you this negative energy. I guess that deep down, I have this deeply rooted fear of abandonment, which comes from past experiences. Numerous times in my life, I've lost friends or I felt ignored, which was so painful for me. And I was triggered when you didn't answer your phone. And I projected that onto you, which was not fair, Aanya. And I'm also sorry if I contributed to the situation in any way. I'm sure there have also been times when someone in my own life has tried to contact me and I wasn't available, intentionally or unintentionally. Sorry, Mom. So moving on to the next phrase though, please forgive me. So please forgive me for not really thinking of your perspective, Aanya, and for sending this negative energy to you. Please forgive me to anyone who I may have also hurt unintentionally in the same manner. And thank you. Thank you to the divine. Thank you to the universe. Thank you to Aanya for teaching me this lesson. And I love you. So notice how this example, notice how like in this example, I really allowed myself to feel the I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. Sometimes we're taught not to feel things and to just use our mind to solve issues, but just allow yourself to really feel, because when you don't allow yourself to feel, compassion becomes just a theory. Compassion just becomes more of a concept that you're detached from, kind of like the grocery list. So feeling something truly helps. Truly helps you get to this place of, I'm sorry. And this relates strongly to Jainism, especially when we use the phrase miccami dukram, right? We're asking for forgiveness to all beings. So, you know, when you like truly know when someone is sorry, right? And you feel it inside. You feel the other's pain, you feel their discomfort. And I want you to lean into these feelings and emotions, because if we can truly sit and feel their discomfort, it will take the charge away from their discomfort. And when I say charge, I'm also referring to energy. So the universe functions through energy, right? So when we talk about karma, Jainism talks about karma. So how is it related to Jainism? When you're able to do this practice with others, you're able to reduce your ego and show compassion through empathy. And anytime you're having a negative reaction from someone or faced with a negative situation, this is a great place to apply this practice. Whether you're annoyed about something, upset about a health condition you're going through, politics just got you fuming. So this removes the bad energy for yourself, but also in the other person. And you can accept responsibility for whatever you're noticing and the feeling your feelings, and realize that somehow you have played a part and it's your perception that's causing you the pain. So if you clean this out, what's happening outside will get better. So ultimately, this technique helps to build compassion and understanding, but also creates positive energy, or at least negates the negative energy to make it right, as Ho'oponopono means. So another quick thing is that there's a true story about a therapist that actually healed his entire psych ward with using this therapy and without even having to meet with patients, just by going through their charts. So this is a very powerful technique.
Thanks, Sonali, and I forgive you for that. So let's think about other examples of compassion. Simple things that we have in our control right now that shows that we have compassion and kindness for others is things like wearing a mask in public, keeping distance from other people. That's showing respect that you have for them. Thanking essential workers. So when you go out to maybe pick up food at a restaurant, do you say anything to the workers that are there, for example? Do you say, thank you, and I hope you stay safe? Those words don't seem like a big deal, but can have a huge impact because it shows that you care for them and that you have compassion towards them. You have to think from their perspective that they're probably not loving 9 times out of 10 to be working during such a dangerous time when they can get sick from just about anyone. So making sure that you are thanking the people around you to show that you are compassionate and care about them during this difficult time. Another way is having perspective in politics. And this one is especially hard for myself to wrap my head around, but I'm working towards it. But that's because I'm a human being. I have opinions and I have strong political views. And practicing this bhavana in this instance, it reminds me that regardless of the views and the beliefs I have of myself and what others do, having compassion towards the other person just as a human being is showing that you have great empathy. Speaking ill of other people, that's not going to do anything. That's not going to hurt them. And if anything, it's going to hurt you even more. And we know that this is constantly a work in progress that I'm working towards in particular, but making sure that, if at the end of the day, political beliefs are political beliefs, but I'm going to make sure that I show compassion to them, regardless of whether they show it to me or not. And lastly, showing compassion towards yourself. A lot of us have grown up in a Jain community or society that it's been drilled down in us to show compassion towards other people. That's the basis and the core tenet of what Jainism is, right? We show compassion towards animals by, a lot of us are vegetarian. A lot of us do community service. We're getting involved in YJA. But we always forget about what compassion looks like towards ourselves. It's doing things like speaking kindly to yourselves, making sure that you're staying healthy and showing compassion to your body. And like I said, it's as a core tenet of Jainism, it's so important that we particularly understand the compassion towards others can't come until we have it within ourselves. So a couple different examples here that Sonali and I found these and we thought they were really funny at a first glance of them. But I want to look at this through the lens of the compassion bhavana. So when it says here, normal people when sick and people with coronavirus, I'm going on an adventure, might seem pretty funny to us and it's relatable, but it's also really true. And we should be showing compassion towards other people of when we're not feeling good, or regardless of whether we're not feeling good, show compassion towards other people by staying home, just how you would normally do when you are sick. The one in the middle, that one's, I think, the funniest to me because I love The Office and I love Kevin. And when he drops the chili, it's relatable, right? Like, oh my gosh, this is so much how 2020 is. He dropped the chili. That's how my rest of my year is gonna go. But what if we don't think like Kevin did when he dropped the chili and instead show appreciation and compassion towards this year? And instead, let's act like Michael Scott when he says, I am Beyonce always. I think he's the better representation of how we should be showing compassion towards ourselves and others this year. And lastly, Barack Obama. Look at him running back to the White House to get his mask because he remembers that this is the best way to show compassion towards others is by respecting them and wearing a mask in public.
Those are some great memes. Like, I never get tired of looking at them. So the last bhavna is Madhyastha bhavna, which means neutrality. And this bhavna is teaching us how we can be less reactive and remain neutral in every situation while not swinging from emotion to emotion. So I wanted to ask you guys, what are some ways that you've tried to remain neutral during the past few days? And you guys can just type it in the chat box.
Yeah, my friend backed out the last second when we were supposed to hang out, but I kept calm. That's great.
Oh, that's tough.
Not responding back to comments that have been triggering me. So true. Very disconnect from social media, especially Facebook. Take back to a time where to myself to think about anything, mental decision about how I feel. Yeah. Try to understand the point of view of a dying patient in denial. It's a tough one.
So these are all really great. We appreciate everyone's participation. But just to take this a little further, when we're not neutral in situations and we're getting overwhelmed, our emotions, as you guys know, can cloud our judgment and our thoughts. And the thing is that if we're clouding all these thoughts and we have all these emotions, it makes it so difficult for us to practice the 12 bhavnas and then in turn also practice the 3 auxiliary bhavnas. So it's really important that we do learn to stay neutral and that we don't overwhelm our emotions too much, because when we do that, we're also overwhelming our body, which is in turn overwhelming our energy, which carries out into other parts of our lives. Like other people feel it and it just becomes this endless cycle. So controlling our mental state is very important. So how can we do this?
Mm-hmm. So I see this as very similar to the gratitude journal. You have to find what works for you. So there's so many different things, and I'm sure a lot of us have heard about this, is there's things like apps. There's so many different apps out there that can help you with the meditation. Headspace and Calm app are 2 ones I recommend. I use the Calm app, and I like to every once in a while just close my eyes and listen to the sound of usually somebody in a British voice, because that's the most soothing to me, talking to me and helping me find my balance. Something that a lot of people like to do is yoga. And just this morning, we had Avni Dalasani give us, a great yoga session. And I believe she has a YouTube channel. So find YouTube channels, find things online, find people to do the yoga with, so you can have that inner balance. And then breathing exercises, something that if you don't have the app, if you don't have access to doing yoga, breathing exercises you can do any day, anytime, anywhere. And that's really something that it helps to rebalance your entire body, and then that helps rebalance your mind. So I'll let Sonali talk a little bit more about the breathing exercises.
Thanks, Anya. So actually, just to add on to the yoga part, there are some apps that my best friend's a yoga instructor, and she told me about an app called Yoga Down Dog, and there's another app called Glow. So those are some apps you could try. And then with regards to the breathing, when we do pranayam, which are certain rhythmic breathing exercises, we actually take the currents in our body and move it that are kind of cluttered all over the place, and just kind of like start to get the energy in our body moving in a more rhythmic fashion, which helps keep us more calm and grounded. So that's just something that I wanted to share with you guys. And from my own experience, just being Jain, we are always taught to be less reactive by default. So reactive meaning we respond to situations with a negative and sometimes overly positive emotion, which leads to those swings in emotions that I discussed earlier. But even with all this learning, I found that there were times when I still was more reactive than needed, and this is just us being human. But I was introduced to meditation back in 2017 by an old friend, and I'm so grateful. Meditation has changed my life and has been especially helpful during these difficult times. And I've really learned to let go just by continuously doing the practice. So it's important to take time to yourself to just clear this mental chatter and help reduce that reactivity that is normal behavior, but keeps us neutral and grounded.
Totally. Other more relatable memes that we found, especially the one on the right. I mean, when we're doing yoga, we're doing meditation, a lot of us, when we start off, you're gonna have all these different thoughts, and it's gonna be like it's a cycle, and it won't stop running, right? You're constantly on a treadmill, it seems like, with all these thoughts. But know that's normal when you first start off. But the more you practice and incorporate it, just like your daily gratitude journal, you're going to find more of a balance in your life and the more ability to be able to reach neutrality with practice.
So, when it comes to meditation, people are always telling me, and it's a total normal response, but I can't sit alone with my thoughts for that long. I don't know how to meditate. I just don't have the time. But guys, we all have a few minutes to sit down and reflect. So I totally understand the discomfort of sitting with our thoughts, but how are we going to release these things that are cluttering our minds? How are we going to remove that clutter if we don't sit with them? We have to do the work. It's essential. So there's really no right way that I can tell you to reflect, but there are many types of mindfulness and meditation techniques in existence. But for a beginner, breathing practices may be the best to start with. I'm not sure. It kind of depends on what works for you. But what breathing does is, I sort of hinted at it earlier, but breathing helps to align the mind and the body. So some easy breathing practices you can try. This is a good picture for you to kind of see how to do it, but I'm just going to give you a simple technique. So just for a minute, sit with, wherever you're sitting, just sit in a comfortable posture, close your eyes, and relax your body from head to toe. So start with your head, go down and through your face, relax into your jaw, down into your neck, to your arms, all the way to your hips, into your knees, into your toes. And then take a few deep breaths. And these are deep belly breaths. And then allow your breath to flow at its natural speed. Focus on your breath. So focus on the air coming in and out. Focus on how many nostrils the air is coming through. Is it coming through one or two? Focus on the temperature of the air coming in and out, and the air going through your nose, into your lungs, back up your lungs and out your nose. How does your chest rise and fall? So these are all things you can focus on when you're just focusing on your breath. And sometimes if it's still hard to focus, you can repeat a word or phrase while you're breathing in, such as breathing in, I'm alive. Breathing out, I'm happy. Just to have something to help you focus on your breathing, especially when thoughts come in and out. And you don't want to necessarily get rid of the thoughts, because those are things sometimes you just have to release. But after a point, you need to go back and find your breath. So it might help to have like a think word that you refer back to, like wander or focus or something like that. So this is just like an easy practice you can do. You can do it every day for a few minutes. 10 minutes would be really helpful. And you will find that over time, it will be very you'll notice a difference in yourself and in your mood and your reactions. And so just make sure you're consistent with it and you don't miss a day, because it's a cumulative effect. So I hope that, this is something you guys can use.
Definitely. And I know we're running out of time, but that was all the 4 bhavanas that we wanted to go over. But let's understand, why are these bhavanas important? We have many different types of education in the world, right? We're constantly a student of life, of school, of professional life, etc. But there's something quite different about being a student of spiritual and moral education. This is something that once you have it in your life and you apply it, there is a potential that this will impact you as the future soul. And that's why it's vital that we spend some time in our self-improvement and betterment every single day to reflect throughout our lives. And like I mentioned in the beginning, the bhavanas are a foundation to becoming better ourselves every day. It's truly a work in progress. You may have noticed that a lot of these examples that we put could easily fit under other bhavanas, but that's the whole point. Once you start working on one bhavana, let's say compassion is something you're really passionate about, and you really start working towards that, the other bhavanas are soon just to follow. So we hope these tools that we've given you are going to help assist you in your spiritual progress. And lastly, we want to learn from you. What bhavana are you going to work on today? If you want to drop it in the chat. I know that I'm going to work on today appreciation. I appreciate Sonali for doing this presentation with me. I appreciate the entire YJA board for bringing me on to this session. I appreciate my family members for putting up with me this week through my craziness of work and this presentation.
I appreciate all the things that Aanya appreciates too. But I think I'm going to work more so on compassion and through using neutrality to achieve more compassion with others and be less reactive.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys, and big michami dukram to anyone we may have hurt intentionally or unintentionally.